You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermot and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Hinshaw.
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Daicos nearly runs out of room. He's goal.
Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club.
Slap for Nick Daicos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to pick the winner.
Here's the Nigoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
Welcome to Into the Woods. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. If you want to join the conversation, be sure to follow our socials. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Once again, I'm joined by Michael. How are you, Mick?
Good, thanks.
No, you're not. Don't lie to the listeners.
You're lucky I'm here today. Get on with it.
We have just had the worst pre-pod we've probably ever had. For our listeners, I am just back from what was actually a pretty good game, Melbourne v Fremantle at the MCG. It was surprisingly a good game, actually. And as I was walking back, I called Mick and I said, all right, I reckon I'm about 20 minutes away, and then it might take me about 15 minutes to set up because once again in a new location. So, maybe inside the next 35 minutes. My timing was off. I actually took longer. I was probably about 50 minutes. And anyway, I called Michael already expecting him to have everything set up. Nothing set up. Absolutely nothing. And who do you think was the one that cracked the shits? No, not me. Old Grumpy Nuts over here cracked it with me because I was upset. Now, I think that's a fair reason to be upset that I gave him such a long amount of time to set up, and I've just sat down with a cup of tea, he said. Nothing set up. And here he is. For the people watching this, they'll see him crossing his arms in a second. He's not looking happy, but I'd like an apology.
I'm just watching the footy, the Adelaide game's on.
I would like an apology, please.
No, you won't be getting an apology because you obviously didn't listen to me because I didn't just make a cup of tea, I made a cup of coffee. So you can't even get the basics right. So you obviously weren't listening to me, so you will get no apology. Let's get on with it. Before I forget, Richard from Sleepy Hollow, one of our regular original listeners, wanted me to make a point about Collingwood, and I forgot to actually. I did get his text, but I forgot to write it. Yeah, I forgot to look at it. But it was along the lines of how smart the coaching's been in recent weeks, and he's absolutely correct. The coaching has been very good. The way we've been able to take the corridor away from sides in the last 2 weeks, limit uncontested marking. I don't know. Did you want to go straight into the game now?
Yeah, look, we may as well. Let's get into all the hot topics.
We've listened to the wisdom of Sir Winston Churchill and the brilliance of genius Albert Einstein. In the 60s, we heard the great JFK. Now, all the great minds are talking footy.
All right. Okay, so, yep, as you said, the coaching has been unbelievable so far this year. I think, I sent you a screenshot today. Was it Adam Simpson that said that Fly has been the coach of the year? And I think there's been 3 different occasions where he's had completely different styles of play to beat the opposition that he's been facing. And Simo, Premiership coach himself, as we all know, it was very, very glowing of what Fly's been able to do so far.
Yeah, it is. It's the best of, for the kind of the uninitiated like ourselves. Like when we're not footy experts, and because I don't go to the games because I'm in Tasmania, so I watch on the TV. It's limited about what you can see with tactics, but it's the best I've seen in coach since there was a game against. It might have been against Carlton, where it was last year or the year before, We beat them in contested footy when they were going in at the very top of their game in that area. They've always been good at that area, but they were at the very top of their game at the time in that area, and we beat them in contested footy. He used Pendlebury to tag Cripps at stoppages and then take off and expose him the other way. And I thought that was a great coaching performance. But this is, his last couple of weeks have been really good. Really good. So
we have the best team defense without a doubt. Like, our defense is amazing. I'm not just talking about the back six, back seven. I'm talking about the way that we defend the whole ground, and you can really see it when you're at the games. Luckily I've been to the last 3 games now, and I saw a stat afterwards that really backed that up. And it's after that Brisbane game, they only had 37 inside 50s, which is their lowest since 2020, which was obviously a COVID year with shortened quarters anyway. So
yeah,
I'd like to know what the stats are that outside of 2020 and how far back that record would go if you took that out of it.
Yeah, I'm careful not to talk over you because our voices drop out if we do, so I have to get a bit more disciplined in that area. But I had that stat written down too, 37 inside 50s. It was phenomenal. So really our backs weren't called upon to do much at all, but as you point out, it was kind of the whole team defence. At one stage we had 9-1 in clearances. Cox, I thought, was very good in that first quarter. We got 2 or 3 centre bounce clearances in a row when he went in there at one stage. I thought he was very good. Just sticking with him at the moment, he was very frustrating, Cox, in terms of his shots at goal. But then on the positives, he was getting the shots that he would normally kick. I know his kicking is not as good as it was a couple of years ago, but yeah, he'd normally kick those ones. And we really, as I pointed out in the past, we lose nothing when he goes into the ruck. So, I'm not sure how they're going to structure up in future. I don't think he's going to be their first choice. He's only there because of the structure of the team at the moment. I can see you're keen to get on, Dermot, but we can't talk over each other, so you can't just bully your way in as you normally would.
It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because I did want to butt in. This is actually probably good practice for us for when we get back together, because that is our major weakness, is we do cut in and interrupt what we're saying. So, look, there was a couple of occasions in that first quarter where Cox, his ruck work was just sensational. The way he hit it down, I think it was Daicos' throat centre clearance, and then straight after down Pendlebury's throat centre clearance. That was great. Overall, he just didn't do enough. Those 2 misses could have been costly. We're lucky because if that was a close game and say we went down by a couple of kicks, we would go back to those 2 misses, and also Dan McStay's miss while we're at it. That was pretty ordinary too, and he's done that a few times this year, McStay, for a guy that's actually a very good kick. I don't know why he's trying to snap it around the corner from about 15 out. He's such a beautiful set shot drop punt kick. But anyway, back to Cox. Look, you can't just pick him based off a couple of good hit outs, because at the end of the day, Cameron, at the moment, I know Gawn played a pretty good game today, but I think at the moment Darcy Cameron is the best ruckman in the competition. Consistently throughout this season, he has to be number 1. So when you've got the best ruck in the competition, and McStay's more than a handy second ruck, if he's doing about 15 to 20% of the game, Cameron's doing 80, 85. That's good enough, because Tim Membry walks back into this team because he is a hell of a lot better forward than what Mason Cox is. There's no way in hell he would have missed those 2 goals. Tim Membry is probably our best kick, if we're being completely honest. I know Checkers is pretty good, and McStay when he's not trying to snap it, and Elliott, but I think Tim Membry is our most reliable kick for goal. So I don't see a place for Cox. What I do see is the way that we're managing our players, and we might talk about that a little bit later, the way that we're managing our players this year, I'm really, really impressed. You know, you look at Pendlebury and DeGoey, and there was talk that we were going to sub Sidebottom late in that game to manage him, but then the more injury happened, so he couldn't. So the way that we're managing these guys is really good, and maybe at some stage we can afford to manage a McStay who's coming off that ACL, or a Myercheck or a Darcy Cameron, like we did with Membry, and then that's when Cox can come in. Every time a key forward or a ruckman need to be managed, that's when Cox plays. But he's not best 22.
Okay, you're right. It is frustrating. You can't butt in, especially when there's nonsense being said and you want to take the person to task. But no, I didn't really say he should be picked, and I didn't say he should be picked on the basis of those 2 taps. I'm saying it's a hard one wherever he gets picked. And it's not just the 2 taps, it's the fact that when Cameron goes out of the ruck, the opposition ruckman can't dominate. That's a big advantage. It's not so much what Cox does, it's what the opposition ruck won't be able to do, because they're up against a number 1 rucker. No, I can see you're keen to get in.
That's about 20% of the game where Cameron won't be rucking. I don't think that's enough to justify Mason Cox.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm not sure I am advocating for him to come in. But there were other things you said that I didn't agree with, but it went on for so long, I've forgotten what they are. Oh, yes, I do. Membry. You mentioned Membry. I think he's an inspired pickup, not so much for the obvious things, but I just think if him and McStay and Myercheck at the club, it's taken a lot of pressure, a lot of physical pressure off Myercheck. They were able to rest him for a week. Basically, it was a rest. I don't think he was too badly injured. And, because we've got those 2 other guys there. Whereas in the last for years, he's been really pretty much our only big guy down there, Oven Cox. He's really been the mainstay of the forward line in terms of height. And he's been battered and bruised. Now, just physically, it's going to take a lot of pressure off him.
That's what I said in the preseason. I said this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to Myercheck, having these 2, McStay and Membry, in the team for that exact reason, and it's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, we might as well get to it now, because I know you're busting to talk about Daicos. So
yes, Josh Daicos was very good.
Well, I am talking about Josh Daicos, and we're talking.
Okay, well, let's start with Josh before we get to the obvious thing. Go talk about Josh.
No, I'm going to talk about both of them at once. 1,124 metres gained between both of them, which is very a lot of metres. So that they were great. I'm thinking, is that Nick's best home and away game ever? I know he's had his 40 and he's kicked 3 against Adelaide, but just as an all-round game, given the opposition, given the fact that they were at home, they're the premiers at home. With their much midfield, it would have to be close to his best.
It's his best this year. He's played some amazing games. The one that sticks out, and the stats might not back this up. I don't care about the stats, but I was at this game. It was Anzac Day 2023. Was it 23? I think it was. And he just willed us over the line. We're about close to 5 goals down at 3/4 time, and he just basically single-handedly got us over the line. That, for me, was his best home and away game.
Yeah, no, he was. He was really good. Like I said, best I've seen from him, I reckon.
He's. Can we stop this argument? Like, he is the best player in the competition now. Surely everybody. Like, I've been screaming this since we started the podcast. Like, I don't even know why it's a debate. Like, he is so far above the rest of the competition. It isn't funny. Like, honestly, in my opinion, this may be a big call. It might be a biased call, but I don't think it is. By the time that he's finished his career, he will be the best player to have ever played the game, and there won't even be a debate about that either. There won't even be a debate. He will be so far above anyone else that's ever played this game, and that is my prediction. So come back to me in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, and I guarantee you'll be agreeing with me. If you're still alive, that is, Mick. You'll probably be close to about 100 by that point, but
Are you saying I don't have to see you for 10 or 15 years? That's a win-win. Yeah. Oh, look, I've always said he's in the conversation of Bontempelli himself over the last couple of years. The fact that Bontempelli hasn't played this year, it kind of just, I suppose, it defaults to Daicos. Cripps hasn't been as good. Lockie Neal hasn't been as good. Excuse me. Sorry, coffee went down the wrong way. So I think at the moment is clearly he's the best. Best ever. Who knows? Lee Matthews got 38 possessions, kicked 11 goals in a game. I don't think anybody's doing that.
to move on from who's going to be the best ever, because who knows? That could just be me making an absolute fool of myself. But back to the game, the way that he thinks his way through things, he never panics. He is the smartest footballer I've ever seen, and I've seen Gary Ablett Jr. His handballing is so underrated. Like, I've never seen anyone so damaging just from handballing. Like, we think back to that grand final, to over the shoulder to the goalie. He regularly does that through stoppages, every single game. And you see him there live, and it's like a mixture of Pendlebury with time and space and how he doesn't panic, and a mixture of Gary Ablett himself. Like, he's got that explosive side to him that Pendles doesn't have. He's just, as a midfielder, he's the full package. He's the full package. He's kicking, especially his kicking inside 50. It just blows me away how he could kick a ball 50 meters inside 50 and just hit a guy in the chest so regularly. Like, he's just an absolute freak. He's just, when you watch him live, these last 3 weeks, it's just been absolute pleasure. Like, you see it on TV, but you don't get a full understanding until you're actually there live. What are you looking at? Why are you looking at me like that?
Behind you. So part of Dermot was berating me before we started was I didn't have a Collingwood picture up. And then I see he's got some Pasterly number in the background there. What the hell is that?
It's a hold on. It's a deer. It's a beautiful painting. I'm at an Airbnb. What do you want me to say?
But you made me take down my pictures last week, my Mondigliani pictures, and there you're going with that number.
Do you want to know something? I'm also very professionally doing this podcast on a bed right now, because, and I'm not sure about the lighting. I'm sorry, but as we've said in the past, it might be a little bit how you doing when it comes to the locations of these podcasts. Do you want to know something?
Not if it's boring. Please don't tell us.
No, well, it's not exciting, but I'll talk quick. So I spent most of last week up on the Gold Coast. Beautiful. I love the Gold Coast, and then travelled down to Brisbane for the game. I was in a hotel right across on the Surfers Paradise. Walked past Oleg Markov, actually, because they had a camp up on the Gold Coast. Walked past him on the beach. But yeah, when I rocked up, I looked and it had this beautiful desk, this beautiful setup, and straight away I thought, oh, that's perfect for the podcast. We've finally got a great location for the podcast. And then it hit me. We're not actually going to be doing one while I was staying there. So that was a bit disappointing. So very unlucky. But anyway, we move on.
Yes. Ned Long. Does he, I know we've been talking about, there's been speculation about Collingwood are going to need to recruit an inside mid for next year. We're going to have to look at Petrarca. We're going to have to look at LDU. We're going to have to look at Row. Does the rise of Ned Long change those plans? Are we getting ahead of ourselves after 2 very good games? Or I think he's just got, I reckon he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be very consistent in their output. I can't see fluctuating too much. So if he used to bring, even, I'm not saying get 30 possessions a game, but if he's getting 20, 22 possessions and he's standing up in tackles and he's feeding the ball out to the likes of Daicos and Pendlebury because he can get a handball out when others go to ground, does that change who we target at the end of the year?
Yeah, I agree in terms of it's going to be very hard for him to play a poor game based on the role that he plays. He's always going to be around the ball. And when he doesn't get the ball, he's our best tackler. Like, he's always leading us in tackles and pressure acts. So he's always involved in the game with or without the ball. So I agree. Like, it's going to be hard for him not to play well. He's going to be very consistent. Does it change the way that we're going to recruit? I don't think so, purely because we've got Pendlebury, we've got Sidebottom that are still playing bulk minutes in the midfield. And, like, they're as good as ever, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to be there forever. So we're still going to need, like, we both love Ed Allen, but he still hasn't proven himself. So, look, we can't just rely on him. So really, it's only Ned Long and Nick Daicos that you can 100% put a tick next to, because Geordie turns 30 next year and his body is iffy at best. So I still think we do need to target someone. And I'll tell you who we should target. I've got this way down on my list, but we'll bring it up now. Christian Petrarca. Now, I spoke to you on the phone about him the other day. He doesn't want to be there. Like, there's no doubt about it that he doesn't want to be there. And I reckon Melbourne are about to rebuild. Goodwin, I know they had a good win today. They're going to finish bottom 4 for sure, though. Goodwin's not going to be there next year. They're going to look to rebuild. You got Track that doesn't want to be at the club. You got Clayton Oliver doesn't want to be at the club. You got Cozzy Pickett who doesn't want to be at the club. It's gotten to the stage where they're just going to have to let these guys go for the sake of their culture and building this up. You don't want senior players at your club that don't want to be there. They may as well go full Richmond and just rebuild. Now, Petrarca wants to stay in Victoria and he wants to play for a premiership contender. Let's go through the Victorian teams that are premiership contenders. You got the Pies, then who? Hawks? 100%. But they've basically been linked to everyone other than Petrarca. How many of these guys can they get? So I'm going to put a cross through Hawthorn. Who else you got? Geelong? Once again, they've been linked with everyone again except Petrarca. And will Petrarca want to go down to Geelong? Well, it depends if they offer him a farm. I'm willing to put a cross through Geelong. Carlton? Well, they don't look as good as what we thought they would have at the start of the year. So based off what I heard, he wanted to go to either Collingwood or Carlton at the end of last year. Carlton, I don't think are an option. I think it's just the Pies. He's good friends with Darcy Moore. He was a Collingwood supporter growing up. As far as I know, his whole family still go for Collingwood. In terms of what we have to give up, I'm happy to part with a first rounder. I'm not sure if we're going to have to give up as much as what people think. I'm thinking maybe a first round pick, whether it be a future one or whatnot, and an okay player, maybe, because it could be similar to Dan Houston. Like, we got Dan Houston way cheaper than what anyone thought that we would. And no one gave us a chance of getting him when it was first announced that he was leaving Port Adelaide, and we somehow found a way. Don't be surprised if Petrarca wants to get to Collingwood and Collingwood wants to get Petrarca, that we get this deal done, and we might even pay unders. So for the sake of Melbourne's culture, they might just let him go. What do you reckon?
Well, when I said, does it change who we're looking for? Does Ned Long's emergence change that? And what I meant was not that we don't go after a midfielder. Yes, we do. But we don't go after the big body midfielder. Who I reckon we go after is somebody like, you make some good points, but some Zach Butters is the type I would like to see as target. Petrarca, yeah, he's obviously a very good player, but he's nearing on 30. He'd be close. Well, I suppose he'd be 29, pushing 30.
Suits the Pies perfectly, then, doesn't it? The age range.
Yeah, no, but I just think he's going to be. Because he's a heavy set guy. I don't think he's going to be one of these guys who plays on to their 34, 35. I think he's got a couple of top years left in him. Because he's a really big body midfielder. I can't see he's not going to be doing a Pendlebury. You look at all the guys who have played for long periods. They're all slight, wiry types.
What about Dangerfield?
What's that?
Dangerfield's still going in his mid-30s. He played pretty well the other night against Adelaide.
Yeah. But he's got other strings. I can't see Petrarca being as successful a forward as Dangerfield looks like he will be, given Dangerfield's more explosive in terms of being able to jump and contest for marking. Yeah, look, you make some okay points, but I'd be reluctant to give up too much for Petrarca. I'd rather give up a little bit more and get somebody like a Zach Butters, who's 22. And he's a very, very good player.
That's the thing. So Zach Butters is still on contract, I think, for one more year.
Yeah, he's in contract to the end of 26.
He's 22, like you said, or 23.
Yeah, that's good.
We're going to have to give up an absolute fortune for this guy.
Yeah, but he might be, but he's going to be there 10 years. He's going to be there 10, 12 years.
Look at the way that we've recruited. We're in it for now. I'd just say, you just said yourself, Petrarca still might have a couple of top years left. Let's just go out and get Petrarca, I reckon.
Look, it's not a terrible idea. I'm splitting here. Yeah, Petrarca would be a great acquisition, but I'm just thinking what would be the best acquisition. Yeah.
All right, let's continue to talk about the game itself. So,
sorry, I've got a couple of things. Tackles. So it's surprising. 28 to 33. We laid 33 tackles. Like, we were jumping up and down after the GWS game when we laid 39 tackles. We actually only laid 33 tackles. I know when we got the ball, it's hard to tackle.
Exactly what I was about to say, yes.
But still, even given that, and Brisbane 28. It was just one of those games. It just seemed to be one of those games where they just weren't. It wasn't as high pressured as not. We beat them really badly around the contest. We were able to explode from stoppages. And as we said before, we forced them long down the line. They couldn't use the corridor. They couldn't link up with uncontested marks. So, Bobby Hill.
What about him?
I think he demonstrated why we need to use him further up the ground. That run he went on was a phenomenal run, and we could get so much more out of him with his pace than just sitting in desolation corner down there in the forward pocket. I know we've spoken about this before, but it just highlighted again, the need to have him further up the ground.
That run along the wing and then kicking it inside 50 and then working back to then almost kick the goal, which then resulted in McStagan in a free kick. That was unreal. That was one of the most exciting bits of play I've seen from a Collingwood player this year. I 100% agree. Put him as a high half forward and let him do his work, because you put him in a pocket and he just gets cold. So yeah, I agree. That was good signs. Let's talk about. Do you want to talk about Ed Allen again, because he's once again sub? What's going on? So there's so many positives to talk about at the moment. This is the only negative. Is this guy going to request a trade to WA? Because it's just not working at the moment. If he's not getting the game now, when you don't have Houston and you don't have Schultz in there, and like the week before it was DeGoey that also wasn't there. If he's not going to get a regular run into 22 now, what chance he's going to have when these guys come back? He would be getting sick of this sub bullshit, let's face it, because he should have been given a go against Brisbane. It should have been Hoskin Elliott that was the sub. I know there's people that have been saying to us that, they don't see why we're so into Ed Allen and why, they don't think our love for him is justified. But are you at all worried that we could potentially lose this guy? I know he's still in contract, but yeah.
Well, when we spoke about it a month ago, I wasn't overly worried. I thought they'd all be on the same page. They've got a plan there, and there would be a slow burn, and they're going to develop this guy over a period of time. But I just think you need to reward performance in the twos. If somebody's continuing to play well in the twos, you have to give them a reward. It could be that being a WA guy. Yeah, I think he needs to be rewarded. That's the only thing that would concern me.
Fly continues to say, I want to play Ed Allen. I really want him in there. He said that after he got dropped after the GWS match going into the Port Adelaide match, he said, I want Ed Allen in the team. He'll get his chances throughout the year. And then he said it again a couple more times. Well, Fly, I love you, mate. But if you want him in the team, guess what? You're the senior coach. Fucking pick him, mate. Just pick him. When DeGoey goes down injured, when Schultz goes down injured, when Houston goes down suspended, there's opportunity there for him. And what do? You pick him sub back-to-back weeks. Like, you're coaching unbelievably, mate. We're playing fantastic brand of football, but this is the only thing that's doing my head in. Pick him. It could be too late now because Houston's back. Schultz may be back. So the time's gone. He's probably going to be dropped. He actually played VFL the following day, got the 23 disposals and a goal against the Brisbane Reserves. So out of all our AFL listed players, he was the top disposal winner. So yeah, I think we've now lost the opportunity to give him games.
Yeah, I think whether they're, if they're dangling the carrot in front of him that, we're an aging list, he's probably not falling for that anymore. Like, who knows how long Sidebottom and Pendlebury are going to go on for. Yeah, like I said, I just like to see a bit of reward for the guys' efforts in the twos. When somebody falls out, like at DeGoey the other week, like a Houston or like a Schultz. I know none of them are like for like, but you can move them back. But nobody's exactly like for like, are they? Because they're different players. So nobody is identical. But what you do is you move the magnets around and you provide an opportunity. I had a look at Jack Crisp. Great effort. He's going to be going next week. He's equaling Hines record. And I just thought it reminded me of I thought you might want to call for the Pendlebury method. Our regular listeners will remember last year when Pendlebury was a couple of weeks out from his 400th game. Dermot really wanted the 400th to be against Carlton. So he muted this revolutionary idea of resting Pendlebury the week before his 400th in order to ensure that he'd be playing his 400th against Carlton. So I thought you might want to apply that same theory to Jack Crisp. Maybe rest him this week in order that he gets the record the following week.
I realised as I was saying that last year about Pendlebury, as it was coming out of my mouth, I realised what I was saying. And it just, okay. I completely forgot about that.
I recommend to our listeners who haven't heard it, go back and listen to the episode from last year, Comedy Gold.
Which episode was it, Michael?
Oh, it was the week before his 400th, wasn't it? Or was it 400?
I'm not sure. I feel like it was a few weeks before that, but yeah.
About that. That was hilarious.
All right, well, go on. Sorry.
Quaynor. What do you reckon is happening with Quaynor? Quaynor, I think, is nowhere near back to what appeared to be his great 23 form, where he was very flashy, a lot of run and carry, really caught the eye. He had a terrible year last year. This year, is he playing a different role?
I think he's playing a lot more defensively than what he was in 23.
Yeah, he's playing a lot more defensively. Is he playing as well as he was in 23, just differently? He did go on the one good run and ended up kicking a nice pass to McStay in the forward line. That was good play, but he doesn't catch the eye like he did. But I'm wondering, is he just playing just as well, just in a different role?
Well, you're not going to believe this. I actually had him next to my notes as well because I was almost thinking the exact same thing. So I was thinking, do we keep Harry Perryman in the back seven when Houston comes back and potentially drop Quaynor? Because we've got so many inside mids now that maybe we could use Perryman back more than in the midfield. But then I really thought about it, and like being at the games, there were so many times where I would stand up and I would applaud an effort from Quaynor that won't get rewarded on the stat sheet. But then at the end of the day, I'll look at a stat sheet and be like, oh, Quaynor, like 10 possessions. But then I'd literally go back and remember those moments. So I think he's actually playing well. He's just, like you said, he isn't intercept marking like he was in 23. He wasn't going on those runs. He's not doing that anymore. But I think, he's still playing well. It's just different. It's just different now that we've got Houston, Josh Daicos, those guys in the back line. So, no, I wouldn't drop Quaynor. And I would send Perryman back into the midfield next week when Houston's there. We're just going to have to change it up a little bit, I guess, and move the magnets around. But I think Quaynor, he stays in the team. He's playing a role. No one knows the system better than him. He's been there for a long time in that back six, back seven now. So, yeah, what do you reckon?
I'm pretty much on the same page there. Just with Daicos, though, back to Daicos, Nick.
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
They're obviously, at the start of the year, I called for them to nurse DeGoey through to the back end of the season in the hope that he hits finals fit and firing. And it looks like they're actually doing that. They're being very cautious with DeGoey, and I applaud that. I don't know if they should take Nick Daicos for granted. They wouldn't rest him. I'm not advocating resting him. If they were to, it would be against the weaker sides, the the West Coast Eagles, the North Melbournes, if you were to rest him. But just maybe nurse him along a bit more. Just give him more time deep forward or running off half back or something. I don't want to see him in the thick of it all the time. I'm just thinking if he goes down, we're going to be as good as we're playing and we're not relying on him as much as we were last year to dominate, to win. But I just don't want to be seeing him in the guts all the time.
Nah, I disagree. I want him in there. Maybe late in the year, if we've locked up top 4, locked up top 2, whatever, maybe. But no, let's not mess around with it too much. I'm happy to manage the guys that have got an injury history, the guys that are over 30. I'm not willing to manage Nick Daicos unless it's maybe if it's a game where we're already 10 goals up and we're playing a bloody West Coast or something, that maybe an in-game management of putting him onto a halfback flank or forward or something, maybe. But like, no, let's not mess around too much. Like, it's an amazing start to the year. We're 5-1 and we look like we've got that hunger back. But you don't want to fuck with form. So let's just keep on going and then reassess later in the year.
I'm wondering how much you're motivated by the want for Nick Daicos to win the Brownlow. So I couldn't really give a stuff if he won the Brownlow at all.
Yeah, a little bit. That does come into it. Yeah.
It's just team success. That's the only thing I'm interested in. And I just think he's just the guy is a human being and he's subject to injury. And I just think and it's not like he wouldn't contribute deep forward. His dad was pretty good deep forward. And we know how good he is running off the halfback flank. Some people, I think Lee Matthews even called the other night he would like to see him play more off half back because he thinks that's where he does the most damage for Collingwood off the half back. So it wouldn't really be, we're not really sacrificing much by just taking the physical pressure off him a little bit. But anyway, but there you go. I heard McRae after the game talk about how he conceded Brisbane's, their 5-day break, they're playing in the heat. Because last week when I was watching Brisbane against Footscray, I'm thinking, it's a hot day in there. But I thought, no, they're obviously used to the heat. So that won't really have an effect. And a 5-day break, but I think they'd had a 6-day break the week before. So do you reckon that was significant, the 5-day break playing in the heat against Footscray a week before? Do you think they took away from them at all?
I haven't really considered that. But what I was thinking about Brisbane, and I wasn't going to bring this up because it's a Collingwood podcast, but I'll mention it now. This may be a big call because they're 5. What are they? They're 5-1 too, aren't they? So they're only behind us on percentage now. But I think there's a mini premiership hangover. I don't think they're quite going as well as what people think. When you look at the fact that they just got whacked by us the week before, they were getting smashed by the Dogs. I didn't watch any of that game because I was at another game at the time, but I was following on my phone. They were getting smashed, and then they came back and won. The week before that, they only beat Richmond by 25 points? Richmond, the reigning premiers up against Richmond, 25 points. It feels a little bit like what we were doing last year. Because remember, we missed finals, but at one point we were actually top 4. We were top 4 at about round 12 or something like that. So we started really poorly. We were 0-3. Then we won a few games, top 4, and then we fell away again. I just don't think they're as good. No, going into this game, I tipped us. Normally, I never tip us against Brisbane at the Gabba, no matter how good we are. And I normally don't, but my gut feel was I didn't find them as scary to play purely because Joe Danaher isn't there anymore, and he used to kill us every time we played him. He had a great record on Darcy Moore, so I don't find them to be that as good a team anymore, and it would not surprise me if they finish anywhere between 6th and 10th. If I'm being completely honest, I reckon that I'm happy to be called out if they end up finishing top 4 and winning the premiership or whatever, but. Because it's a big call to say this when they're 5-1, but it's just the way that they're playing at the moment. Let's just see what happens when they start facing a few more good teams like us. So the first time they come up against a good team, they failed. So, yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, I had Joe Danaher in my notes. There's been a lot of talk in the last few weeks how they're not missing Joe Danaher. I reckon it's nonsense. Joe Danaher, he was that guy who could. They haven't replaced. Yeah. Who are they taking those bail-out kicks? Who's marking those bail-out kicks? Or even competing, making sure it comes to the ground for Charlie Cameron and the like? They got that Will Day, isn't it? That Will Day.
Sam Day.
Sam Day. Who's Will Day? That's
for Hawthorn.
That's the Hawthorn guy. Sam Day, nonsense. They're not missing him. They're missing him a huge amount. He was a very good player, and he went into the ruck as well. Did a lot of great ruck work as a second ruckman there. They are missing him a lot. Uh, so yeah, I'm kind of on the I reckon the jury's out with them as far as their chances of going back to back. I think he's a massive loss to them. As I said at the time when he retired, he wasn't their best player. Lachie Neale's their best player, but he's their most important player. He in much the same way as I've spoken about Anthony Rocker in the past. Anthony Rocker wasn't Collingwood's best player, but he was their most important player structurally. And that's what Danaher was to Brisbane.
No, I 100% agree. We talk about Collingwood and what your predictions are for the remainder of the year from here. Is the lid off? Because the lid's off for me. Watching us play, I'm getting 2023 vibes, but even better. I think we're a better team now than what we were in 23. Like, we've basically got the same squad, but you got Houston in there. You've got Membry, you've got Perryman, you've got Schultz, you've got Ned Long. Who are the guys that we've lost from 23? Jack Ginnivan, who, by the way, is can't even get a game for Hawthorn now. He's been dropped. And Nathan Murphy's the other one. You know, he's a big loss, but he's the really only big loss from that 23 squad. And I've just named 5 big inclusions. You can't say, oh yeah, but you know, we're a couple of years older. Okay, is Pendlebury and Sidebottom, these guys, Jeremy Howe, are they any worse than what they were in 23? I'd say they could be even better. Sidebottom especially is better. So I think our squad right now is better than 23. I think that we've gone through that premiership together. We've played big finals together. We know these guys know each other and they're going back to fronts. They've gone through the shit of last year now of having that premiership hangover. And it was a hangover. The hunger was not there last year. But I reckon they're now using that hurt and that embarrassment for last year. The fire is in the belly again. And I reckon we're clearly the best team in the comp. And I think we're going to finish top of the ladder. And I think we're going to win the premiership the way that we did in 23, play all our games at the MCG throughout the finals. And this is big coming from me because you know, Michael, that I've been hurt too many times watching us play finals footy and I refuse to believe it. So it's just my gut feel. It's just my gut feel. We're going to win the fucking flag.
Well, when you're talking to a Collingwood supporter of my age, the default position is negative when you ask them about their predictions for the year, because you've seen a lot of heartbreak in your time. Well, I've seen a lot more because I'm a lot older. So the default position is negative with me. I just think about Sydney of last year. Sydney was so dominant in the first, 18 rounds of last year, and then they kind of got picked apart a bit, and they were still winning games, but not as convincingly. And then come the pointy end, they were lucky to make the grand final because GWS should have beaten them. As a GWS should have been, yes, GWS
Yep.
should have them out. Yeah. So look, things are going very well. They do look very good at the moment, but just from experience, things can change. Injury, as I said last year, the sides that get to the grand final are normally the sides who have had the best run with injury for the year. So that's gonna play the biggest part.
So this is fitness aside. So like, if we're got a full bill of health, then yes, I'm talking about if everything injury wise goes to plan, then I think that we're clearly the best and we will go all the way. It's just you bring up Sydney. Sydney of all, I'm not going to say always, but in the last 5 or so years have been a mentally weak team when it comes to finals. Longer than that, actually. It dates back to 2014. 2014 when they got smashed in that grand final. And then again in 2016, then the Geelong one. And then last year. We're a premiership team. We've played well. And even in 22, we only lost the prelim by a point at the SCG. We're a proven finals performer. And I look at this squad and I look at every single line of this current team and I trust every single one of those players. Like, they are as solid as anything. Even Billy Frampton, the form that he's in at the moment, he just believes in himself all of a sudden. It's just, he knows his role, and I believe that he will contribute most weeks. Everyone's going to have their down game occasionally. But But I feel like if, for example, Josh Daicos has a down game, well, we've got Dan Houston. What are the chances they're both going to have a down game? Well, you go into midfield. If Nick Daicos has his one below par game a year, you know what? Sidebottom and DeGoey and Pendlebury and Ned Long, they're going to step up. Like, what are the chances that all these guys are going to have a shocker at the same time? We dominated in 2023 for the majority of that season, and then we ended up winning the Premiership. So, to me, that's the history that we should look back on, not what Sydney did last year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that separates us from a side like Sydney is our style of play. I think it's not as easy to pick apart a style of play. Like we play in kind of the let's call it the Richmond mode when they won their chaos footy, like swarming chaos footy, run and carry. Whereas Sydney were a lot more controlled. The way they played last year, a lot more control, a lot of uncontested kicks, a lot of uncontested marking and so forth. They played a little bit like Hawthorn did back in their three-peat, where they control. I think it's easier to pick apart that game than it is to pick apart a chaos game. And talking about that, I saw one of our players interviewed the other day after the Brisbane game. I'm just trying to remember who it was. And they talked about what they were prepared to do to keep it away from Harris Andrews. They said they were prepared to kick it to grass in order to avoid him, because they were avoiding him every time they could. But if they couldn't avoid him, they would be prepared to kick it to grass. I don't remember them doing that, but that took me back to 2018, where McGovern, you know what I'm talking about. It was put to Buckley. Why don't you kick it to grass? And Buckley dismissed it out of hand as nonsense. You don't kick it to the grass. And 7 years later, things change, don't they? It wasn't as stupid as it made sound at the time. I didn't think it was stupid at the time because McGovern was that dominant. If you couldn't avoid him, I would sooner them just kick a chaos into the forward line and take him out of it. But it was dismissed out of hand at the time. But the point being that I think our game style is less likely to be picked apart than some other game styles. Look, I'm happy at the moment. I'm not going to go start making predictions about whether we're going to win the flag.
Well, tell me right now, who is your number one seed? Who do you think is the best team in the competition right now?
Oh, right now, I think Collingwood are.
There we go.
Yeah, but they don't award the premiership flag in April.
No, they don't. But I just think that we're obviously good now, but I have a feeling that we're still going to peak in September. The way that we're managing these guys just fills me with a lot of confidence.
Well, it was a big win considering their Brisbane's big in before the game, which had me worried. Their big in, Matthew Nichols.
So hold on, was he umpiring? Because I didn't even notice him.
Well, I heard before the game he had been appointed. I didn't really look out for him today, but that's the first time he's umpired our game since Sullivan didn't give the ball back to him.
Is that why they dropped Sullivan last minute, laid out?
Maybe, a bit worried. So that was the first Matthew Nichols game for a while, so I was a bit nervous going in. But no, I didn't notice. I don't think the umpiring was too bad from memory. Odd shockers here and there, I suppose. But
I'm not convinced that Nichols was umpiring. He normally sticks out, and I don't remember him being there.
Yeah, well, I actually heard it on the Pies Nation were talking about it, that, he'd been appointed. So I'm not sure if that's what happened in the end, but...
Just quickly, a couple more things to talk about in hot topics before we get to the votes, because I feel like this pod is going to be a long one. So for people that have been listening to us for a while, if you listened to our 2 episodes late last year when we did our preview of the trade period and then the post the trade period, both Michael and I were very disappointed that we delisted Nathan Kruger. We love Krugs. We love him as a forward. We love him as a backup ruck. But most of all, we were both desperate to see him trialled as a defender. Not even trialled, because he played defence when he was at Geelong, mainly for their VFL club, and in the couple of games he played for them in the seniors, he played defence. I remember supporters of the Cats loved him, and they sort of said he looks like another Alex Rance down there. If it's good enough for Chris Scott, who's a great coach, then it should be good enough for us to at least try. And we never ever trialed it. We ended up delisting him despite having hardly any good key defender depth. He then goes back to Geelong in the VFL team. He goes back into defence, and he's apparently the best key defender in the seconds at the moment. VFL, SNFL, Waffle. He is apparently the number one defender at the moment. And for the mid-season draft, there is 3 teams linked with him. One being Melbourne, one being St Kilda, and the other one being, you guessed it, Collingwood. Will we end up with Nathan Kruger again? Should we end up with Nathan Kruger? Is that the sort of player you want? And if we do end up with Nathan Kruger, does he take Billy Frampton's spot?
So that's a question to me, is it? Considering nobody else can talk. Question to me. What I would like, as you said, we didn't want him to go, especially given our need. We're a bit skinny in the back line as far as key backs go. We haven't got a lot of them going around. I don't think he should have gone to begin with. Yes, I'd like to have him back. If he's got other clubs interested, from a personal point of view, I might be going to a St Kilda rather than Collingwood because he didn't get a lot. He didn't play a lot for us, did he? Over the years, he wasn't really. I thought he was hard done by on occasions, and I think he'd be a lock in their 22 if he went to St Kilda or Melbourne. But you probably wouldn't want to go to Melbourne. You probably want to prefer St Kilda. I think they've got a brighter future. So it'd be good to see him come back.
Yeah, you said that to me the other day on the phone, and what I didn't say to you then was he doesn't actually get a choice because it's a draft, so he just goes where he's drafted. But even if he did, go on.
Well, that's okay. So I take it you're going to edit this humiliating part out of the pod. Yeah.
No, but even if he did get a choice, I think he would choose the Pies because he's got the relationships there, and to me, he will come onto this list if we were to redraft him, and it's a 50-50 race. It's a 2-horse race between him and Billy Frampton for that last spot. Because there's no other player fighting for that fullback spot now that Reece McGuinness has done his ACL. I just don't think that Charlie Dean is up to it. If he was up to it, I think he would be more of a Jeremy Howe replacement, more so than a fullback. I reckon, would you rather go to a club that you've got all your mates there and you're a 50-50 chance of winning a premiership? Well, being a chance to win a premiership. So you're going for that spot in a premiership contender, 50-50 chance. Or would you rather go play for bloody St Kilda? Like, please. Anyway, he doesn't get the choice. Hopefully, because those 2 clubs will obviously get a pick before us in the mid-season draft. Hopefully they pass him. Hopefully there's someone that they want a little bit more. And then we can grab him with our first pick. He's just someone that I desperately want back. I love Krugs.
Just watching the footy here. We've got full-time, Adelaide 52. GWS 34.
I was wondering what was going on because I'm following the scores on my phone, mainly the fantasy scores. But I was going to ask you, why is it so low scoring?
Well, I've just kind of been glancing across as you've been talking, not really listening to you, and they have had some rain, but I don't think too much. So while we're on possible recruiting, the academy picks, there's been talk in the last week or so. We've got a couple of academy picks at 200 and something centimetre guy there for us, and a little nippy forward. Do you know much about them? You heard much about?
Just what, the same amount that you know. Everything that I've sent you, that's all I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So no, not a lot. I can't even remember their names off the top of my head.
Yeah. Apparently, they both may be fairly high up in the draft.
Well, the key forward is expected at the moment to be a potential first round pick. So him alongside Tom McGuire. And then you got the little nippy forward, as you just called him. That's a bit of a bolter at the moment. Wasn't even in discussions. Now he is. I still think he would be a later pick, but we'll see how he goes throughout the year. And we've also got Oscar Loney, the son of the great Ryan Loney, as everyone will know. My love for Ryan Loney. Apparently very, very similar type to his dad as well. So, which shouldn't surprise because his twin brother Nathan was also pretty much identical kind of player to what Ryan was. It just seems like it runs in the family. So wouldn't that be great? But
talking about a bit of run and carry and bouncing, Darcy Cameron's first career bounce the other day.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw him. He got the
No, I did.
back from Daicos, grabbed the ball, got it stepped once, did a little bounce, and then disposed of it. So that was funny. First ever career bounce.
Now, the last thing I really wanted to talk about, sorry, this is probably the longest hot topics we've ever had, but the last thing I wanted to talk about was Jamara. So you brought him up a few weeks ago. It's gone downhill even more for Jamara in the last few weeks, especially
What has he been linked to the Kennedy assassination now, has he?
Now, Tom Morris said basically the other day that he reckons right now all you would have to pay to get Jamara is a 4th round pick.
I heard that. That's nonsense. Who said again?
Tom Morris, and I think he's one of the best in the business, Tom Morris. I see you said 3 first-round picks, which really shows your knowledge when it comes to modern day trade period.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. I do have to butt in. You said company, but I can't let that go unchallenged. I never said he was worth 3-round picks. This is about a month ago, so things have deteriorated further since then. So take that into account. What I said at the time, a month ago, 5 weeks ago, whatever it was, that Footscray or Western Bulldogs would, as a default position, be starting with asking other clubs to cough up 3 first rounders. That's where they'd start. And they would probably, at the time, settle for 2 first rounders. But it's deteriorated in the last 5 or 6 weeks.
And I called you out at the time and said that's absolute nonsense because they obviously don't want him at the club because he's a moron and you can't ask for any more than 1 first-round pick. And that was at that point. And since then, like, surely you've learned this over the time with what's happened with Collingwood, with Grundy and Treloar and Stevenson and all these guys. We weren't able to get what they were worth because we were the ones trying to get rid of them. Surely over time you've learned that. And I called you out at the time because it was a stupid comment at the time. And right now, I think Tom Morris is 100% right. Because I'm not even sure if I'd want Jamara for a 4th round pick. I'd probably do it, but he is toxic. That guy is the biggest fuckwit in the competition, hands down.
Oh yeah, look, yeah, he's going to go for more than a 4th round pick. Somebody will say to themselves, "We can back our system. We can." Yeah, I notice you got your finger up again. You can give me the floor for a minute. Somebody's going to say this guy's a talent, and that guy is a talent. He's whatever his early 20s. They're going to say we can back our system to turn him around. They will have. They have to cough up at least a 2nd rounder. They're not going to get him for a 4th rounder. It's not going to happen. So Tom Morris says a lot of things. As I said in last year's trade periods, the likes of Tom Morris, they throw a lot of darts. That's the analogy these days. That journalists throw darts and they occasionally get a bullseye and they hang their head off that bullseye. But they get a lot wrong too. They're going to get better than the 4th round pick for him, I guarantee it.
Are you done?
Yeah.
All right. So what did GWS have to pay to get Jesse Hogan, a key forward that had all the talent in the world, was a Rising Star winner, and he played the exact same position as Jamara, a young key forward. What did GWS pay to get him from Fremantle?
I don't know. Well,
a 4th round pick. They paid a 4th round pick because of all the shit that he had off field, and they were able to turn him around. He's an absolute star now. So I don't think that Tom Morris is too far off it.
Okay, we'll revisit this. Mark this down in your calendar. They will have to cough up at least a 2nd rounder, and we'll revisit it, see who's closer.
Okay, I would say 3rd or 4th rounder, if he continues to go down this path. So this obviously would change potentially almost week to week on what this guy does. If he pulls his head in, maybe it could be a 2nd rounder, but I don't think he's going to pull his head in. If he hasn't done it now, is he going to do it at all? We talk about Clayton Oliver last year. What this guy's doing is 100 times worse than what Clary was doing. At least he was still at the club, Clayton Oliver. He was still playing. He played about 20-something games last year. He looked unfit, but he was there. Jamara is just off the rails. Would you take him at Collingwood for a 4th rounder?
Jamara?
Yeah.
For a 4th rounder? Yeah, you would. You would. Look, I think the guy's a bit of a deal. He is. But for a 4th rounder, you're not risking a lot, are you? You're not. I'm not sure how much I'd be paying him. I don't think I wouldn't be paying him that. I don't think I'd be paying him much more than 700 maybe or so. I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, you're probably right. With Collingwood, the older team that we are, I think you've got enough senior players there that he's not going to ruin your culture. He's probably not the right fit for a team like a Richmond where they just got kids everywhere. But for someone like us, like if he continued his ways, we'll just sack him and move on. And I don't think it would ruin the culture. You know, got Pendlebury and Sidebottom and the likes there that are leading by example. So no, you're probably right. I probably would take him for a fourth rounder actually.
Before we move on, I think you're keen to wrap this up soon. But just touch on the umpires the other night. Gee, Brisbane were hard done by in that Daicos 50 thing. So he's got the free kick, Daicos, and kind of half-back wing area, and it could be said he feigned the handball on purpose in order to get Berry, was it, to move off the line? And
Bailey, yeah.
Zach Bailey, sorry. And that, of course, isn't a 50. If the kicker, the guy's got the ball, pretends to play on, and of course the guy on the mark reacts to that, that's not a 50. So anyway, they paid the 50. But how could that 50 have been 77.2 metres as reported by Fox Footy? How can the umpires get it so wrong?
Just ridiculous, yeah.
That's right. And then they got another, Daicos actually got another 50, which if he had missed the goal, would have brought him to the goal line. As he kicked, the Bailey jumped over the mark and he was awarded another 50. That was very hard done by. How can they get it so wrong? They obviously can't measure distance at the moment because some of those kicks are going 25 metres and they're getting called play on. So it's just crazy.
All right.
There you go.
Anyway, let's get into the Julian Row medal.
He's been pretty good, Julian Row. He's been better than pretty good. He's been a forward that has presented for them today.
All right. So, the Julian Row medal. I've given, no surprise, once again, my full 60 votes. And like I do, I like to spread them out a little bit. So I've given 2 votes to Braden Maynard, who had the 15 disposals and 5 marks. It was really the eye test. Being there, I really liked his game. I just really liked his game. I looked at the stats and it didn't really back up what I was seeing live, but I just got to go with what I saw and I liked it, so I gave him 2 votes. Dan McStay, I gave 3 votes to. He had 6 score involvements and a game high of 3 goals won. So you're probably thinking, 3 votes, that's not a lot, but he kicked the first 2 of the game, got us started. He was good, hence why I gave him votes. I just don't think he did a lot after that first quarter. He missed that easy goal. Could have easily been 4 goals, but then the one he did kick was kind of a lucky one. He got that free kick on the line. But yeah, still good enough to get the 3 votes. I've then given 2 players 4 votes. One being Jeremy Howe, who had the 16 disposals, an equal game high 7 marks, and 365 metres gained. And Brody Mahachek, who had the 6 marks, 6 inside 50s, and 2 goals. I've given 2 players 5 votes. One of them being Jack Crisp, the first time I've given him votes this year. He had the 20 disposals, 414 metres gained, 7 score involvements, an equal game high 7 intercept possessions, and 2 goals. And Jamie Elliott in his 200th game, which we haven't even mentioned. Congratulations, Jamie, absolute star that you are. He had an equal team high 7 marks. He had 9 score involvements and 2 goals 3. I then gave 2 players 6 votes. Scott Pendlebury, the 21 disposals at 81% efficiency. So I remember you saying at halftime, Mick, to me over the phone to do a couple of times where he looked a little bit un-Pendlebury-like with his disposal, but he still went at 81% from 21 disposals. He had the 5 clearances, the 5 inside 50s, the 7 score involvements, and 2 goal assists. Ned Long's the other player who gave 6 votes to. Another really solid game. He had the 21 disposals, a game high 6 tackles, a team high 22 pressure acts. He had 5 clearances, 5 score involvements, and a goal. I then gave 7 votes to Steele Sidebottom. Another great game. He had the 26 disposals, a game high 7 inside 50s, and 487 metres gained. I then gave Josh Daicos 8 votes. He had the 30 disposals, the 599 metres gained, 6 scoring involvements, and a goal. And for the second time this year, I've given 10 votes. And for the first time, it's to Nick Daicos. He played the perfect game. He He had a game high 38 disposals, a team high 10 contested possessions, a game high 8 clearances. He had 6 inside 50s, a game high 645 metres gained, a game high 12 score involvements. He had 2 goal assists and a goal of his own. So to wrap up, full 60 votes, Nick Daicos 10, Josh Daicos 8, Sidebottom 7, Long 6, Pendle 6, Elliott 5, Crisp 5, Myercheck 4, Howe 4, McStave 3, and Maynard 2.
Right, it's me. Full 60 from me too, 11 players. You got Nick Daicos 10, Josh Daicos 8, Ned Long 6, Sidebottom 6, Crisp 5, Elliott 5, Hill 5, Howe 5, McStay 4, and Cameron and Pendlebury 3 each. So, you want me to go through those again?
Go on, yep.
Yeah, Nick 10, Nick Daicos 10, Josh Daicos 8, Long 6, Sidebottom 6, Crisp 5, Elliott 5, Hill 5, Howe 5, McStay 4, Cameron and Pendlebury 3 each. And I was just thinking, I think we got all the Julian Row medal replicated the same top 10 as Collingwood's the Copeland Trophy last year, didn't it?
I think it was very close. Yeah, I think it actually did. I just think it was a different order.
Yeah, good judges. Yeah,
good judges. But no, that's actually. I think this is the first time I haven't had Darcy Cameron in my votes. Actually, I just didn't think he was as good as he normally is. So I'm surprised that you've given him the votes there.
I think he battled well and was good for us.
And Bobby Hill, you gave votes to as well. I just think that he did a couple of really good things, but for most of the game, he was just sort of not involved. But you obviously saw it differently.
But that's what you get with a guy who's playing that position. You know, yeah, you can't expect them to be in the game all the time. That's just the nature of the role they play. So it's just you got to judge them on what they do when they get the opportunity, I suppose.
No, well, that's fair enough. And if we saw it the same way, it would be quite boring. Anyway, do you have I got vomit? Yes or no?
Well, yes, I do have something that's been sometime.
All right, here's Michael with I got vomit.
When people get winded on the ground, do they go, does that still happen a lot?
Do you want me to test it out?
No. Yeah, I was going to say. Because I remember when I used to get winded, you lie on the ground and all you hear is...
Right. Now, this is something that's always annoyed me, and it's annoyed everybody, I think. Built-in obsolescence. I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about. It's when a product is manufactured to fail. And I'm not sure if you realise this, Dermot, but it was actually invented back in the 1920s. There was a... Dermot's just rubbing his eyes, looking very bored. You're not going to learn anything unless you concentrate, Dermot.
Sorry, if I'm being honest, I'm not actually listening. I'm looking at my Who Am I for the next segment.
It was a light. I think it was Edison, a light bulb company, back in about 1924. They realised they were manufacturing these light bulbs that just lasted forever, like thousands of hours. And they thought to themselves, we're getting no return customers. We're going to go out of business. So they produced their next lot of light bulbs were designed to fail after X number of hours. So you kind of understand that businesses have to survive. You can't have products that last forever, else they go out of business. But look, in my lifetime, freaking adhesives no longer freaking stick. Like you got, Band-Aids especially. It used to be a saying, rip it off like a Band-Aid. All right? You don't need to rip it off like a Band-Aid anymore. Band-Aids freaking come off by themselves in about an hour. Glue tack's not what it used to be. Glues, find me a good glue. I challenge you. Find me a good glue. It's very frustrating. Adhesives are the worst things, the most unreliable things you can buy. By some means, send me some a product, make and model of a good adhesive. Tautologies annoy me. They always annoy me. Joey Montagna, today, and I think it was him the other day as well, commentating footy, describes play as retreating back. You can only retreat back, Joey. Just retreat is sufficient, okay? You don't have to say retreat back. That's it.
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
You weren't listening because you didn't even know what I finished.
No, it's because one of my players in fantasy has just been put as the sub, and I can't work him. Damn it! I can't. He has to stay on the bench. Damn it. Um, sorry about that. That's a ridiculous. Richmond have put Luke Traynor as their sub, a key defender who's absolutely been smashing it, and I can't put him on the bench because both of my players have already been locked out. Jackson Pryor and Finn O'Sullivan.
You don't want to pass comment on built-in obsolescence. It doesn't frustrate you. You buy a product and it just falls apart.
No, what frustrates me is who's the Richmond coach? Adam Uze, playing Noah fucking Bolter, that loser, and then putting their kid.
Sorry, I'm going to have to interject. I've warned you about this in the past. This pod is not a vehicle for your freaking fantasy teams, right? Because it's boring. I think somebody said the other day, the worst thing is when you're at the footy and two guys behind you are discussing their fantasy side. Okay? It's very, very boring for people who don't do fantasy. Let's go on to Who Am I?
Imagine playing a criminal in Noah Bolter over a young kid by the name of Luke Traynor, who's absolutely been smashing it. Good coaching, Adam Uze. Good coaching. Absolute loser. All right, it's time for Who Am I? Who am I? Everybody's favourite segment. Are you ready, Mick? Are you confident with getting this today?
Well, you're never confident, no. But I'll give them my best shot. As long as I can rely on the clues being accurate, that's all I ask. I'm not going to revisit what's happened in the past. Let's draw a line in the sand because I've been ripped off on a number of occasions. But I just want to be confident that the clues are accurate.
Very accurate. I spent about 20 minutes at the airport today putting the other day putting this together. So, yep, all the.
Hold on, I forgot. I got a touch of the macabre.
No, this has gone on too long. Who am I?
It's about Abraham Lincoln, but anyway.
For 5 points, I was drafted to the Pies with pick 6 in the 2018 rookie draft from Ballarat.
Right. Pick 6 from Ballarat.
In the rookie draft.
In the rookie draft, yeah. I'm just thinking who came in 20. So at the end of 2018, the start of 2018, the rookie would have been early in the season, right?
The rookie draft.
Yeah, so
that's after the national draft.
Yeah, so they would have been at the club in 2018. No.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I'm not gonna get it. No.
For 4 points, I was a medium-sized defender and would debut in round 6 of 2018 against the Tigers as a late replacement for the injured Tom Langdon. You need to talk, Michael. It's a podcast.
Right. Okay.
And you need to talk, Michael.
Say that again. I'm onto something.
I was a medium-sized defender and would debut in round 6 of 2018 against the Tigers as a late replacement for the injured Tom Langdon.
I'm gonna go for something. I'm gonna go right now. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. I'm about 50. Sam Murray?
Do you want to lock that in?
Oh, don't play games with me. All right? Now, don't have me thinking, is he saying, do you want to lock that in as a warning not to lock it in? Or is he saying, do you want to lock that in as a desperate attempt to stop me locking it in?
Do you want to lock it in?
No, let me just talk through this. Okay, I'm taking a big risk. I need to talk through this in my head. All right, because I remember Sam Murray debuting at the MC. I'm sure it was against Richmond, and it annoyed me. I remember he missed a long ball came in, and he went to punch the ball out of bounds. And it went over the top, and they kicked the goal, and I was furious. I'm pretty sure, was that 2018? Or did he come in 2019? Look, I'm going to take a risk. And a medium-sized, you could describe him as a medium-sized, but he didn't really play tall. He was more of a shorter guy.
You just need to make a decision, Michael.
And I think but he came from the Swans. He was at the Swans. No, I'm backing out. I'm backing out of that.
Oh God.
I think I'm backing out because he had played for the Sydney Swans. Did he go back to? I think he was from country Victoria. Did he go back to Ballarat for a year and then we recruited him from there, or did we get him straight from having been delisted from the Swans? Oh, what if I Sam Murray. I'm doing it.
You're locking it in?
Yep.
Remember that he wasn't delisted by the Swans. Remember we traded like an early second round pick to get him?
Tell me if I'm right or not.
Well, clearly you're wrong because I just said that.
Jesus Christ. Keep on going then. Keep on going.
We literally it was a famous trade. We traded like a really high pick to get him, and he never played for Sydney.
But he was from Sydney, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on their list, but he never played a game, and for some reason we traded a high pick to get him. It was ridiculous.
Okay, yep, rightio. What's the next clue?
So once again, wrong, Michael. All right, so for 3 points.
Fairness, I took a chance for the big points. That's the nature of this this quiz. You take a bit of a chance.
For 3 points, I would be delisted by the Pies at the end of the 2020 season after 11 games and 1 goal. I didn't find another AFL club, but I would go on to sign for North Melbourne's VFL side in 2021, immediately becoming their captain. It doesn't really matter now because you're out, so I'll keep on going.
Oh, gone blank though. North Melbourne, VFL captain, had played for Collingwood. Okay,
I'm moving on because you can't get it.
What the deaf guy? Isn't McCurry or
McClarty?
McClarty, the deaf guy. That's what he's name.
No, because in here it says I played 11 games. He played 0.
I think he was emergency a couple of times, wasn't he? Yeah, keep on going.
For 2 points, in 2023, I would move to America to become a punter for a college football team, although I would walk away from football altogether at the end of 2024. Does this not ring any bells?
Look, I've always said I don't enjoy this environment. All right, I've been put in. I don't like it. My mind freezes up a little bit. I should know this because I vaguely remember somebody going to America. Who was it?
That's okay. I'm moving on because you can't get it. For 1 point, I am the cousin of a very famous Australian golfer sharing the same surname.
The cousin of a famous golfer. Sorry, I've got a water.
I know you and we're not big golf fans, but
yeah. All right. Well, who's Greg Norman's cousin? I don't know. I don't know.
I reckon most people would have got it now. Listening.
Is Tiger Woods got a cousin? What's his name? I don't know.
I am Flynn Appleby.
Flynn Appleby, yeah.
Stuart Appleby being his cousin.
I remember him going to America as a punter, yes. I didn't know. Maybe I did know it was his cousin. I know there's a golfer called Appleby. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't he do his knee at some stage?
No. I have a feeling you're thinking about Jackson Ramsey.
Jackson Ramsey, yeah, I was, yeah. Oh, yeah. Flynn, look, I'm not really spewing because I don't think I was ever going to get it. Flynn Appleby, I do remember him going to America now as a punter. Yeah, all right. Well, the thing about this competition, this quiz, no, I'm just saying from your point of view, too, if you've got a really high-profile player, as we discussed the other week, you have to make the clue's so vague because if you tip over, it becomes obvious. But then you've got these guys who like play 11 games that are very hard to get as well.
Yeah, but they're recent players at least. Like I would understand if it was someone who played 11 games 40 years ago, that would be a bit harsh. But
Appleby, was he a medium-sized defender?
Yeah, 187.
More of a small.
187 centimetres.
Was he? Okay, I'm just trying to pick holes in you. Yeah. Look, I was never going to get. But Sam Murray, that was a good answer.
It wasn't because he was at Sydney and we traded for him. It was a famous trade. It was an awful answer.
I'm happy with that one. Yep. All right.
All right. Any final words, Mick?
No, nothing from me.
Good, because I need to work out if there is a way to get Luke Traynor off my field in fantasy. Fucking Adamuze. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.